particular sectors, it's important to still figure out what you want to be doing and the impact you want to have in the world, whether that's in the social space or the business space, or it's even just in a creative space, in a creative environment. And deciding which type of creative environment you want to be a part of is very important for you. I think I've been very lucky. I made a lot of decisions that went my way.
Back when I was young, I went to a school, I went to a grammar school. I passed an exam called the 11 Plus, which basically from that age, you're being groomed to go to some of the top universities in England, which is Oxford and Cambridge. But I never quite fitted in. So I distinctly remember a conversation after I'd passed my GCSEs, which is the equivalent of your O-levels here in Singapore, right? Where I sat down with the sixth form tutor, and he said to me, "Pete, you've got 8 GCSEs and art." And at the time I was trying to ask if I could do art and design as part of my A-level courses. He saw that art wasn't important and it wasn't a career move for me and I should be going elsewhere. So I distinctly remember that conversation because I came away and I kind of fought the system at the time and said, no, okay, I will compromise, I'll do maths, but I'm going to do art and design, and I did general studies at A-level. And from that point forward, I was lucky enough to have what became a mentor of mine appear in my life, which was a teacher called Mr. Pepper. And he sat me down one day and he said, you do a lot of art, you do a lot of drawing, but you have a different sensibility to you. You're not just thinking about aesthetic, you care about the impact of what you're trying to create. So maybe you should be a designer. And at the time I had no idea what a designer was or what that meant. So off I went, started to study all of the different disciplines of design, thinking about the areas that I might want to go into, and I discovered that I was really enjoying kind of the expression of storytelling. So I eventually became a graphic designer at that time, and I went on to study at University of Nottingham to do information design. So it was even back then that it became a kind of passion that was driving me forwards in the career that I wanted to achieve.
I took a bunch of people who were incredibly busy. We helped them design their own job and help them then expand into the prototype that we designed, and they kind of got there themselves. So by doing that, they're incredibly empowered because they design their own job.
So I'll answer that first just in terms of the context of where I've been. So I've been in Asia now for almost a decade. I went to China first, and then from China I came to help found the Singapore office here. I've worked across the healthcare sector, the private sector in terms of finance, product companies, food and beverage companies, across China and into Singapore. And I think what I found the most is that most of the businesses, the challenges they face is they're not really answering the right questions. What they generally do is they come with what they think is the answer and they want to problem solve from there. One of the things that we do with an IDEO is to help to reframe that challenge. What is it you're really trying to solve for? What's the value you're really trying to create? And how do you make the most impact, whether that's delivering new services, new products, growing a market segment, creating better services for citizens here in Singapore. All of those things are about reframing the question that you're trying to answer. And we do that from a kind of human-centered perspective, so we try and understand the needs of all of the aspects of the system itself, whether that's just from a citizen or consumer angle, or even the organisational context. What's feasible for them to do too? So it's incredibly important to start to frame that question and not dive in straight with the answer. One of the things in terms of the pleasures is, I think, the transformation of the people, specifically here in Singapore. I think the education system gives you a great foundation for being incredibly creative and smart thinking. And in all of the work that we do, there is a transfer of knowledge and a transfer of skills. But it's the impact it has in their ability to open their eyes to a different lens. The lens that gives them a kind of, how I would describe it, is a kind of bite-sized chunk version of innovation. When we arrived here, people said innovation's too big. We're very scared of it. What we were able to do is to make it more concise, to give them a new lens on the world and to create a very different perspective on how they see innovation. So I think that's been some of the most proudest moments, are talking to those guys once we do the projects together, to see their change, to see their transformation, their capabilities, their mindset shifts. They become more confident in the way in which they can approach a challenge. They take on board all of the different skill sets that we apply as design thinkers and really dive in.
Most importantly, embracing yourself as a creative nation. Too many times I hear we're not creative enough. But can you continue to be bold enough, as the founding fathers did for the last 50 years, to create disruptive change where needed and design your own future?
I think, firstly, I'd say there's an enormous amount of opportunity in what the library can be in today's society. The first thing that comes to mind in terms of that opportunity is, how do you think about an environment that embodies and promotes the values of learning and knowledge today? And I think when you think of a library, you were the original Google, right? You were the aggregator and curator of learning and information. How do you leverage that going forward? One of the things I think in terms of the NLB here, you do a great job of being that curator, creating the space and environment that creates that meaningful place for people to come and connect both with others, with the information that's provided through the books and the library itself, but also it creates a sense of place. You have meaningful curated experiences, and downstairs today you have an event that's talking about people's previous homes in Singapore. All of those fabulous things are, I think, you leveraging that opportunity, and may that continue for a long time. I think first of all, it's to be yourself. You don't have to be like me. I've been very lucky in terms of the career that I've had, the mentors that I've had, how that career has shaped me over the years. I think when I look back, one of the things I would suggest is to be optimistic about your path, and really try and find your own path. What is it that you really want to achieve in the world, and then go for it. The other thing is to be adaptable. There will be highs and lows, and I think when I think back, a few years ago now, about a decade ago, I started my own business, brand consultancy in the UK, and there was a point at which I felt that I wasn't being creative as I would like to be. So it took a very courageous move in my mind to sell that company and move forwards. And at the time I didn't know what I was going to do next. And then ultimately I came into IDEO, and then my career has progressed from there. But I think you have to embrace those highs and lows, and you have to think about those things as how do you become adaptable to that, but still sticking to your original kind of purpose and ethos that you set yourself. So those goals and those ambitions, lay those plans out, but at the same time be adaptable around them.